Behind you.
Strange. Vice Mayor Strange, you'll address her properly.
You can kiss my foot.
Mr. Rickard, you're out of order.
FBI, we are asking you to investigate this council. Please look into this council, how they award contracts, the bid process, how they use their positions to benefit their friends and themselves, how they use their positions to attack residents and critics and neighbors and business competition. FBI, will you please look into this?
And I welcome the FBI here. If you notice, Mr. Thompson, with his plea for the FBI and his watchdog group, this city runs the cleanest in this whole county. I guarantee
He was served a federal subpoena this morning.
Did receive a subpoena this morning, and we're going to cooperate 100% with the subpoena. And
most of you who were involved up here, you gaslighted me. You tried to say I was crazy. And now we know that that's not true. And there's a lot of other issues I've been asking about as well.
Geez, it's bad enough, isn't it? It's bad enough when we have city attorneys altering documents, like the city attorney in Panama City Beach, who turned in a document to the FBI during an investigation that had altered language of a plat from 1962. This is a watchdog alert because I just discovered that WMBB is doing its best impersonation of altered documents. And we recall that property appraiser Dan Sowell recently did that with the parcel summary report when WMBB several weeks ago did a report with former Panama City Beach Mayor Mike Pay-to-Play Thomas at Popeye Park. And Brady Calhoun said, we have a special report from the property appraiser's office, and he says that the city owns the land. Well, after I made a few public record requests, the property appraiser backed off of that position, altered a document, altered it back. And now that only leaves WMBB and Brady Calhoun clinging to that absurd argument that Panama City Beach, they still argue Panama City Beach owns that land. All right, so I cannot believe what I'm going to show you now. So switching over to Lynn Haven. And yesterday I talked about Lynn Haven and I talked about the mayor, the new mayor there. But tonight, I've got to tell you a little bit about the police chief, Ricky Ramey, in Lynn Haven. He was afraid he was going to lose his job if candidate Ellen Fields had won. So he leapt into action 7 days before the election, and he posted on his Facebook page her arrest record, which was expunged because it was dismissed. Her charges were dropped. And so people who say it was public record, anybody could have gotten it, are wrong. It turns out that police report was expunged. It was in Washington State. And the only people who could have access to that police report were law enforcement officers. And it had to be law enforcement officers with a good reason. So now the question is, which law enforcement officer got the expunged record from years ago and used it in the way that Chief Ramey used it? Now, did Chief Ramey break the law? He might have. He actually might have. So we're going to have some questions for Chief Ramey. But WMBB is now trying to protect him as law enforcement is looking into the incident. I'm going to tell you more. I'm going to show you the video that's been altered since its original broadcast in just a moment.
Have you received a speeding ticket for which you want no points placed onto your driving record? I'm El Saulene, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
Okay, so let's go back to 1 week before the Lynn Haven election. Now, it is against the law for a police chief in his official capacity as police chief to influence an election to benefit himself. And certainly it benefited him that Ellen Fields lost by about 25 votes. If any of you remember the original broadcast, I'd love to hear your comments on it. But let's go back to what I had written about it on this Facebook page. Let's see if I can pull the right one up first. Yes, this is 1 week before the election. Now, you see this? That's a screenshot from the interview on May 11, last updated by Brady. There's Brady Calhoun again. And he wasn't even the one who did the report. Jerry Brown was the anchor who kicked it off to a reporter, but that part's been deleted. Here's what I wrote 1 week before the election. Lynn Haven Police Chief Ricky Ramey should resign immediately. Today, he tampered with the election by posting a candidate's 2017 arrest documents on his Facebook page. It involved an emotional marital dispute, and the charges were dismissed 4 days later. Chief Ramey left that part out. He included absolutely no context. Chief Ramey needs to tell the voters how he obtained the arrest documents. Did he look it up himself? Or was it given to him? And if so, by whom? Arthur Cullen, did Arthur Cullen ask the police chief to make the Facebook post? Candidate Ellen Fields disclosed the 4-year-old incident last week, that would have been 2 weeks before the election day, while debating Arthur Cullen's candidate on WMBB. Her explanation was clumsy because it's clearly embarrassing. Chief Ramey says he made the Facebook post because he just wants voters to have all the information. But really, he used his position. Look at him. He's in his office in his uniform. He used his position to humiliate her in order to damage her campaign. His boss, city manager Vicki Gaynor, apparently finds this repugnant behavior acceptable. Arthur Cullen has a history of coordinating hit pieces with WMBB in tight campaign races. The news outlets quickly reported that Lynn Haven police chief weighs in on mayor election. Do you think they would have asked his opinion if he was not the police chief? When's the last time you've ever seen a police chief weigh in on election? So, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I'll show you now the actual story that was aired on WMBB. So, on May 11, I believe it was May 11, 1 week before the election, the police chief of Lynn Haven posted the documents that had been expunged. You want to talk about misinformation. Here's misinformation. The arrest report had been expunged. It was not public record, like Brian Dick said at the last meeting. Or it might have been the meeting before that, or the first one. Anyway, within the last few weeks, Arthur Cullen's candidate, who lost the race, he went up there and said, look, we all need to come together. Can't we just get along? It was public record. Anybody could have got it. Lay off the chief. That's not true. Nobody could get it, not even law enforcement, without a good reason. So which law enforcement called Washington State? And what reason did that law enforcement officer give to obtain a police report that was not public record that had been expunged for the purpose of an election campaign? Who did that? At the very least, Police Chief Ramey needs to answer this one question at the very least. How did you obtain the expunged police report from Washington State from years ago? How did you obtain that? Did you do it yourself? Or did somebody give it to you? Here's the story. And this is how it showed up on May 11, 1 week before the election.
Lynn Haven seeing a lot of activity this week as 3 races head to runoffs. And in the mayor's race, Police Chief Ricky Ramey speaking out on Facebook about one of the candidates. The chief pointing to the arrest in 2017 of candidate Ellen Fields. You will recall we first broke news of that arrest during a live debate last week. Our digital team has that story with comments from Fields and Ramey right now at mypanhandle.com.
Where'd it go? What do you mean right now, Jerry? It's gone. See, it cut from there to the report. And in the report, am I crazy? Or was Chief Ramey sitting in his office, in his uniform, talking about Ellen Fields' police report that was expunged? Saying, well, everybody needs to know, about... Wait a minute. See, it wasn't just that Chief Ramey posted this expunged record on his personal Facebook page. That's not the end of the story. He, in uniform, in his office, did an interview with WMBB that WMBB has now deleted on that page. And I'm going to show it to you one more time. When Jerry Brown cuts to the reporter, because they also ambushed Ellen Fields while she was standing out in front of the voting area, waving at voters, and doing what you do when you run for office. They came up and said, hey, what do you think of that WMB report and what the police chief did? That's what WMBB did. But now they've hidden that from you. They've chopped the video. And if you look closely, it says last updated by Brady Calhoun on May 11 at like 6:30 in the evening. But clearly it's been updated since then because the video's gone. The video evidence of Chief Ramey in his office. Watch one more time and take a look at the writing on that.
Lynn Haven seeing a lot of activity this week as 3 races head to runoffs. And in the mayor's race, Police Chief Ricky Ramey speaking out on Facebook about one of the candidates. The chief pointing to the arrest in 2017 of candidate Ellen Fields. You will recall we first broke news of that arrest during a live debate last week. Our digital team has that story with comments from Fields and Ramey right now at mypanhandle.com.
It's still going. Where did it go, WMBB? Where did that part of the story go? I'm looking at your comments. So, Tony Super says, that's Arthur Cullen's, well, he deleted it, but that was his alter ego on Facebook when he was the campaign manager. I can see that I'm blurry, so let me fix that. Voila. Isn't that something? All right, so what is it? WMB. Okay, let's see what Tony Super said here. Let's see. Yeah, it's really crazy, isn't it? Brandon says, how do we citizens hold them accountable? Well, for one thing, Brandon, know the contempt that WMBB has toward its viewers. They still argue, Brady Calhoun and WMBB still argue that the city owns Popeye Park. They're the only ones clinging to that crazy theory. But first thing is just to know what they're doing. And I am still very curious about that relationship between WMBB and the News Herald. And I'm sorry, WMBB and Chief Ramey, and how they were working together to influence that election. Remember, she only lost by about 25 votes. That probably made a difference. But really, why is the video of Chief Ramey in his office in uniform commenting and running down a mayoral candidate to protect his own job? Why is that video? Why is it so important to do away with that video? Who would it hurt worse, Chief Ramey or WMBB? How did you guys get that video? These are questions that absolutely need to be answered because they certainly are going to be asked. I can guarantee you that. All right, I want to show you what I posted today and the most important things to know in just a moment. It's a hot time in Florida, And my friend Ryan could make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at PCAirRepair.com. Okay, so I posted that video today on the Facebook page. Let's see if I can get the right one this time. Yes, okay, so this was what I posted today. See, I posted the video you just watched, and I wrote that they are the latest, WMBB, to alter documents during an investigation. And law enforcement has been investigating the incident. In this current version of their news story on May 11, the interview with Lynn Haven Police Chief Ricky Ramey has been deleted. That part of the video is gone. By the way, if any of you have the entire video, I would like to have it. So if it's on a disc or if it's on your, I don't know, however you store stuff these days, if anybody has the entire video, I'd really like to see it, please. Just send me a message on right here on Facebook. So you can see, or on YouTube. I always forget that I'm on YouTube as well. You can see that the video cuts off at the 27-second mark, just before anchor Jerry Brown cuts to the on-scene reporters. The original news story included, didn't it, Chief Ramey discussing mayoral candidate Ellen Field's old arrest report that was dismissed and expunged years ago when she lived in Washington. Chief Ramey did the interview in his official capacity while in uniform in his office. Since all charges were dropped on her, the arrest report was not public record. Only someone in law enforcement could access the report, and only if there was good reason. Chief Ramey posted the expunged documents on his personal Facebook page 1 week before the runoff election. As a result, Ellen Fields lost that election by about 25 votes. Brady Calhoun is shown as the one who posted the story on the WMBB website. Calhoun did the Popeye Park story several weeks ago involving the property appraiser's claim that Popeye Park is owned by the city of Panama City Beach. Property appraiser Dan Sowell altered the parcel summary report, but now even he has backtracked from that. Meanwhile, Calhoun and WMBB are the last ones clinging to that absurd position. More to follow for sure on that. Let me take a quick look at your comments. Yeah, I tell you, these questions, they can ignore these questions, but you know how I respond to that. I ask until I get an answer. I mean, this appears to me, and I'm not law enforcement, but I know the law. I know what I saw. I know that those records were not public. And I know that WMBB has now altered their live broadcast, the broadcast that they had up there. Which makes me, again, now the question is, why is the video of Chief Ramey in his office in uniform tampering with the election? Why is that video so important to hide? Let's see. Marcus says that's right. Yes, it does have to be filed for. And so there are a lot of questions. Let's see what Amy says. Oh, wow, I included a link to download the arrest report. I didn't even get it to pull up. Really, so WMBB has, let me see if they've, let me take a look at it here offline with you. I'm going to see if, oh, geez, I don't have the, no, I don't. I can't check it right now. But that would be very interesting if WMBB has also hidden her arrest report. Now, WMBB can't post it. As a news outlet, they can post things that are not public. It's like when the New York Times posted, what was it? The New York Times versus the Pentagon Papers. And I think it was 1971. They were leaked some Pentagon Papers, and they posted it. They printed it in the New York Times. And the government sued the New York Times. It said, you can't publish that. It's secret. Well, the Supreme Court came out and said the news outlet can indeed publish that. They didn't break the law. They've got those protections in the First Amendment. Whoever leaked it is the one who broke the law. Whoever accessed it and deleted leaked the Pentagon Papers, they're the ones who broke the law. But the news outlet does not have to give up its sources either, and that's a good thing in some. So that some of us can be free to tell you the truth. It is really amazing to what extent our institutions right here in Bay County, people who are our neighbors, to what extent they're going to hide information, not only from you, but from investigators. That's a dangerous game. And I don't think they're going to be successful hiding all of this. So again, if you have access to the whole entire news report, you can send it to me here. And all tips are confidential. Actually, that's not the one I want you to send it to. I thought I had replaced that with it. Here it is. This is the one I want you to send it to, because this one is encrypted, this email. It's BernieThompson@protonmail.com. And it is confidential and nobody can see it. So if you have it, or you have access to it, or you know of any other corruption in Bay County that the news outlets refuse to report on, let me know about it. All right, that's going to do it. I wanted you to see that. It's a big deal. It's pretty shocking. It's journalistic malpractice at the very least. I'm still blown away by it. The extent that WMBB works with, they're the worst, I'd say. WMBB is the worst at working with the good old boys. All right, I'll see you soon, right here. If you've got a honey-do list, or you need some work done around the home or office, call Paul, PCB. He's licensed, insured, and he's a friend of mine.